put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning. Good morning.
Welcome back to the morning show, and thank you for staying with us. We are going to start our conversation this morning with our guests who are in studio this morning. We're speaking firstly with Aneil Koon Koon, and also Fanta Carrington. They are two farmers in Tobago affected by the recent occurrence as it relates to the relationship with Tadco. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
Right. We're happy to have you here to get the information, to get the facts. And so it's been in the media, it's been out there that there is a situation that has caused destruction of some of your produce from your farms, right? And so we want to have that conversation. But firstly, before we get into that aspect of it, what we want to bring to light is what is the relationship with you and Tadco? How does the system work in terms of you bringing your produce and they're storing it there? What is the established relationship between the two parties?
Well, for me, as a manager of Piers of Years Rabbitry, where we do broiler chickens and we slaughter them and store our fresh meat at Tadco to be frozen, I have been doing that since 2018 successfully. And from time to time, the blast freezer may go down under the former name Tico Swaf. We had a supervisor there at the cold storage that would normally call us from time to time and inform us prior, or if it happened on the said day, that, the blast freezer is not working. So when you come in, you will pack your goods accordingly because we'll have to store them in the normal freezer. Normally, if we store in the blast freezer, I personally will pack whole chickens touching one another, or the parts that are stored packaged in meat trays, I will pack that in shelf baskets at 3 levels on one shelf, and we will get them successfully frozen. If for some reason the blast freezer is down, she will indicate to us to pack the whole chickens spaced out, not touching one another, and the chicken parts in the meat trays, we will normally pack those up to 2 heights, sometimes 3, on each shelf.
All right, but before we get to the actual storage, you're a farmer, and now you need some place to store your slaughtered animals. And so you go to Tadco and you say, how does that work? How do you get approval to store your products there? What is the arrangement there, the administrative aspect of it?
Well, we normally will purchase the ice the day before slaughter. Most farmers slaughter on a weekend, so you purchase the ice on Friday. You slaughter Saturday and Sunday, as the case may be. You carry your fresh goods to Tadco. The workers of the bay will receive the goods, store them in the blast freezer, and by the Monday, you are able to collect and conduct sales.
Right, so what I'm trying to get at is your first transaction with Tadco. So you've just become a farmer and you have to store your stuff somewhere. Is it that you call to get permission to store? How do you develop the initial relationship with them? Is it that you have to be a registered farmer?
Well, for me, I inquired. They took my information as a potential customer. I set up an account for storage. And from there, I just called the first time and let them know I'll be storing on X day. And after that, I don't really indicate what day I'll be coming to store.
So it's an account setup type thing, and so you have the space there for your storage and stuff like that. So whenever you're going, you make your contact, you drop off your stuff. That's how it works, right?
Yes.
Right. And is there any fees attached?
Yes, there's a fee. They have daily rates, and they also have monthly rates.
All right. And you said that you've started this since 2018 with success. You've not had any issues with your storage there from since then till now. This is your first major issue.
At first, we used to store by the kilogram. We used to pay for the weight being stored. And when the present board came in under Tadco, the fees were changed to storing by space.
Right. Okay. Mr. Koon Koon, what has it been like for you in terms of how long have you been in partnership with Sadco, and what has the relationship been like with you up until this before this incident?
I've been farming for the last 10 years, and pretty much it was a good relationship. The breakdown is a lack of communication and the disrespect of farmers, right? Because we seen the chairman saying the blast freezer was down 2 months. And on Friday, when I went to get my eyes, we got a slaughter on last weekend. I met the door closed and I saw the people down there, Mrs. Carrington, Mr. Potts, and Mr. Potts had his chicken and he had nowhere to store. And it get real scary real fast. So, and we trying to find out something. And the only thing we could have been told is that we can't gather here. And the chairman said if we gather in, we had to leave the compound. That's what the security man told us.
So you go down there, your usual routine.
Yeah.
Do you usually have to call before to say you're bringing stuff, or you just
No,
go?
you don't have to call. After you make your, as she just mentioned, you make all your things and they know who you are. You can access, you have time. The time is what you have to check to see when the workers are there to receive the goods, right? So we will work with their time and to make sure we catch the facility open. I mean, if we go there late and it's we fault, we have to accept that, all right? So we try to be as efficient to meet the staff. Sometimes we call and say, hey, we just running a little late, and they will wait for us, you understand? So everything was going fine until up to now, and we don't understand why we getting treated like this.
So up until this occasion, where you got there, no communication,
None.
and to be told that you have no access. So
Yeah.
no, did you receive a phone call to say, listen?
Nothing.
No, you said in your conversation earlier that the chairman said the blast freezer was down for 2 months.
But that's why I know.
But did you have stock there within that 2 month period, or did you have to go there?
No, what I just try to do is to keep my chicken for my customers as fresh as possible, right? So I just try to keep if I go down there, it's just to blast freeze it to give them it in a ice form, right? Because that's how the customers require it for me, frozen. So I just try to keep it as fresh as possible. So I don't keep my goods down there 2 and 3 weeks. Right, so bring it in this weekend. In 1 week time, I try to push off all my goods.
And how often do you take stuff to
I did basically every 6 weeks.
Every 6 weeks.
Same thing for me, between 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, so within that 2 month period that the chairman said the blast freezer was down, you didn't have any cause to go in to do anything there?
In my case, I purchased ice on the 22nd of March, a Friday, and I had slaughter booked for the Saturday. We slaughtered the chickens on the 23rd, and we proceeded to Taco as usual. And I met my colleague there, Mr. Potts, checking some chickens in a basket. I guess he was checking for how solid it was, how frozen it was. Because the blast freezer is a very small area. Depending on how many customers come in with fresh goods, the staff there will rotate the goods. So who come in early in the morning, they take them out at a certain time to accommodate others that come in the afternoon. My goods was placed in the blast freezer on that day. When I returned 2 days after, which will be the Monday as usual, to take out goods to conduct sales, I was told by a worker that apparently the blast freezer shut down over the weekend. The goods are still in chill condition, and we placed them into room 4. I said, okay. I checked the goods. They were still chilled. They put back in the basket. I returned there 2 days after that, and I was able to receive goods that were frozen in room 4. So the company also can freeze goods in room 2 or 4, not just the blast freezer.
And this happened in March?
Yes, March 23rd, I put in the goods. I returned the Monday. They were not frozen. They placed them early that morning. I assume between 8 and 9 into the room 4. And 2 days after that, I was able to get frozen goods.
Right. So now you're in this situation now, right? And you're going to either store or to collect or whatever the transaction is. And you've been told the blast freezer is not working. Upon arriving, at the storage facilities, what you're saying.
Yes.
No communication. And now you're in a position where, of course, you would incur some losses, right? And now your position is you want some measure of compensation.
In my case, I slaughtered again on April 20th, right? The Friday, on the 19th, I purchased 6 bags of ice. I had to purchase 2 bags at a private supplier. So that would make it 8 bags of ice. I slaughtered on April the 20th, 600 plus chickens. I proceeded to Tatco 3 times for the day to store those chickens. When I got there the first time for the day, I was told by one of the workers that the blast freezer is down. So, based on prior knowledge, I packed my baskets to suit. This time, because I had customers waiting on the product, I decided to put 1 level on each shelf for the parts. And the whole chicken, I spaced them out as usual, not touching one another. The goods were received. The goods were received by the worker on the bay, and they were placed into one of the rooms. When I got back there on Monday, midday, with my mom, a worker indicated to me that for some reason the goods still not frozen, and they moved them from room 2 to room 4. I asked to see one of the baskets. I said, bring out one that have whole chicken. When I checked it, the goods were just chill. I said, okay, bring out one with parts. When I checked it, still the goods was just chill. So I said, okay. I spoke to another person there at the cold storage. That person indicated to me, go over to the office area and fill out a complaints form and speak to somebody in authority. I did just that. At that time, I spoke to Miss Allen, who is the processing manager. She also told me to fill out a complaints form. When I filled out the complaints form, I indicated that the meat was not frozen after 2 days of storage. I also indicated that based on not having the blast freezer working and just the normal freezers, I said I had to utilize 9 to 10 baskets when I normally utilize between 3 and 4 for the same amount of goods. Can something be done? Because I will have to pay for each basket that is more storage. That is not a fault of mine. I also indicated on that complaints form that I would like to speak to the CEO. The form was sent in. I returned on Thursday. When I asked to see my basket, I went there in preparation to take out the goods, to conduct sales. When the basket came out, all the goods were still just chilled, and I demanded to speak to someone. Miss Allen came with the financing and accounting manager. They checked, they saw what was happening, they called the CEO, he came down at the bay, he saw the goods and what I was speaking about. He then asked me what I want to do. I said, at this point, I cannot answer you. I can return here 1 hour time and we can have a conversation. I returned there with my mother within the 1 hour period. We had a conversation between 5 people. They said, processing manager, the finance and accounting manager, the CEO himself, myself and my mother. We stated that after 3 days of being chilled, fresh meat being chilled, it's supposed to be frozen. Given the time that this meat inside of there, since it's Saturday, now it's Thursday, and it's still in chilled temperatures, we are going to come to the conclusion that the meat has been compromised. And we would like to be compensated at market value for the goods. This was just a verbal conversation. On Monday, I submitted a document stating the said claim about being compensated for the meat to the CEO. Nobody called me. I also indicated in that letter that I need a response by May the 1st because I'm losing customers. I'm also depending on sales to feed the new batch that I have on the ground. I also indicated how I would like to be compensated. And nobody responded to me on May 1st. I decided when I saw May 3rd to give the CEO a call because he gave us his personal number. Then he asked me if nobody contacted me. I said no. He said, okay, we can meet on Tuesday at 10 a.m. I told Miss Allen to contact you and tell you that. I said, okay, Tuesday at 10 a.m. I'll be there. Moments after, Miss Allen contacted me and she gave me the same information. Later on that day, I received a call from Mr. Potts, my colleague in the business. Fanta, I don't at Taco, and I cannot put in my chicken and not accepting the chicken. I thought, well, he slaughtered Friday himself and now come to put in the chicken and he having a problem. I said, oh, having further dialogue, he revealed to me, no, he came there, he went there on Thursday, that would have been the day before, and they did not accept the chicken. And he's there again Friday, and it's the same thing. I said, okay, I will come and give you a check down by the compound. When I get there, I realized that the facility closed. When I asked questions, they said that they have no water in the compound and they dismissed the staff. While waiting, I noticed a vehicle from the volunteer, from the Defense Force actually, came and they were able to get 2 bags of industrial ice. We were told that no sales, no receiving of goods, but the Defense Force here at after 3 collecting ice. So they leave the farmers out in the rain. There are people who have to slaughter over the weekend. They will buy the ice on Friday. They close the facility. While there, Mr. Koon Koon came. He was trying to get ice because he have to slaughter on the weekend. So the 3 parties there gathered. Then the security came and said that somebody called him and said to expect trouble. I said, what do you mean by trouble? Then he went on to say that the chairman said to him that there's to be no protest action on the compound and that we have to leave the compound. Who indicated?
But were you protesting?
No, we were not protesting. We were just there having a discussion as to what's happening. Having been treated in that way, we decided that no, this is taking it too far, and we called the media. And Channel 5 showed up. We went out of the compound and we did that little snippet of what was shown on the media.
And have you had any interaction with the chairman or anybody from TADCO since that incident?
No.
All right. So you're still in a position where you're waiting and hoping for some discussion to be had and for some measure of compensation to be given to you.
Yes. And while there with the media is when we saw on the page that they're now putting up that the facility has been closed and to call if you need to access any form of service.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're speaking with Aneil Koon Koon and Fanta Carrington, 2 farmers in Tobago who have been affected by storage issues at TADCO, disallowing them from storing and slaughtering their animals in preparation for sales. We're going to take a short break before we come back with this conversation, so we ask that you stay with us. And while you stay with us, of course, we want you to share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning.
Welcome back to the morning show, and thank you for staying with us as we continue conversations this morning with farmers in Tobago. We're speaking now with Shakile Potts, Managing Director of Pro Farms Limited, and Fanta Carrington is still with us, Peers of Ayers Rabbitry, as we continue conversations as it relates to an incident which took place recently in Tobago with the cold storage units. So let us continue the conversation. You've given us a whole history of what had happened with your experience spanning as far back as March 22nd, all up to where we are presently. Mr. Potts, welcome to the conversation, and we're waiting now to hear your contribution as to how things panned out for you.
Well, I would have been storing at the facility since around 2019, 2020. And I could say this has been the worst experience that I've ever had at that facility. I heard Miss Carrington would have spoken about the relationship that we had with the supervisor who was in charge of the cool room at that point in time. And that supervisor would have called us if there were any issue. She always communicated with us through WhatsApp message or phone call. And we are seeing a difference in the operation. Because remember, we as the farmers would not know when a cool room is going to go down or when there are going to be challenges. So we are depending on your information so that we can make a decision. Are we going to slaughter today? Are we going to wait until tomorrow? Things like that. The communication level is very poor when it comes to customer to business, you know. And yesterday I would have listened to the interview, and I think the question was asked, who are the major stakeholders that you all are servicing? And the question was asked, is it the farmers? And the answer to that was, no, I would say it's really the businesses, because they do rentals of the facility where there's a hardware there and so on. And I found that to be very disingenuous. And the reason being is because TADCO stands for Tobago Agri Development Company. It specifically speaks to agriculture and agricultural activities. And if a statement is made like that by the chairman, that tells us why we are in this position today, because there aren't no real interest in the farming community of Tobago. I also would have sent letters to the CEO stating that I would have received losses as well. I would have quantified it, and I have not received a response thus far. Concerning temperature, and the chairman spoke about a disclaimer that was signed. I have a document here with what he is calling a disclaimer, and I'm saying this is not a disclaimer. And this document states that I would have put in chicken inside the cool room after the ordeal on the 3rd.
3rd of May.
The 3rd of May. Mm-hmm. Right? And he said that the blast freezer is the only thing that would have been done. And I'm rebutting that, because if the blast freezer is done, then where did these goods go?
So there's no alternative for storage?
Well, there had to be an alternative because they took the goods on the 3rd.
So when did you encounter your first issue? Because if you took goods in on the 3rd, and we're saying that the blast freezer was done, I think they said on the 20th, somewhere in the end of April. Yes, right? Yes. So you took your goods in after?
They took after the protest, or after when we called in the media, which was Channel 5, the day after that, they took, they said
so you took your goods to TADCO?
Yes, the day after that. I called them and I have told them, look, I have these goods, and what am I going to do with them? Mm-hmm. You know, I have monthly baskets inside there. Another thing too, they are not even saying, well, they're going to give you back a rebate on your monthly basket. Because if you pay for a monthly basket, you expect to be serviced for that period. And if there's any disruption in service, then you ought to sit with that customer and make some arrangement as to how you could facilitate them. You know, and they have not done that.
Mr. Potts, just now, let me just ask this, right? Now, we're talking about the fact that the blast freezer went down.
Correct.
prior to you taking your goods in on the 3rd of May.
Correct. Correct.
Now, you have this information or this knowledge that the blast freezer is down
Correct.
prior to taking your stuff in on the
Correct.
3rd of May, and you still took your stuff there. Did you inquire or did they give you any information as to where or how it was going to be stored?
I would have called them and they would have made the necessary arrangement and told me to come for 8 o'clock to store the goods.
And you had the confidence that they would store it appropriately?
No, but they told me that room 4, they just did construction or maintenance of room 4. So that room should be good. And that is the room that they put it in. But I'm saying that if the chairman is saying that it's only the brass freezer down, that is not the truth. Because there were other rooms, the holding rooms, the storage rooms, that were also down as well.
So where they put your stuff, that room was room 4.
Correct.
Right. So that room also was down as well. The operations in that room
That was down. So when I bought that there, my goods was the only goods in there because they had just fixed it according to them.
Right. So when you put your goods in there, was it working at that point in time, or was it still down?
Yes, it was working according to them.
So the goods that you took in on the 3rd of May, are they compromised or are they in good standing?
Well, I haven't been down there since after the incident. I've been back and forth in the media, so I can't say, but I would go there to check on them to see what is going on.
Considering you took it on the 3rd of May and today's the 7th, that's 4 days.
Yes,
So you have to check on your goods to ensure that we have the accurate information, so we can have this meaningful conversation. But continue with the document that you're talking to me about here.
No, but that was my statement on the document. You know, it's a receiving report, and all I was saying is that these goods had to go somewhere. And surely it did not go in the blast freezer, right? So saying that the blast freezer is the only thing that is not operational or was not operational, because by now they probably fixed it, that was not the truth. There were other rooms that were not working. My goods that got spoiled was already frozen, and there are times that I go there and the goods are thawed out. You know, and I told them about it. I told the foreman, they were there. I checked it. I said, look, feel it. It's stored.
This is prior to this current incident?
Prior to this. You know, so they are aware. You know, it's an ongoing thing where the temperature would have been going up sometime, down sometime. And I think what would have made it easier for the farmers if you call and say, well, the temperature today is not good, so don't bring goods today.
So you're saying that the primary issue here is communication. There has been no information coming forward to you in a timely manner for you to make an informed decision.
Correct.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're speaking with farmers Shakile Potts and Fanta Carrington as it relates to storage of their goods at the TADCO facility there in Shore Park. You know, talking about the goods being compromised as a result of equipment not working. Now, we're still having this conversation, and you're saying what I'm thinking about is after the fact that the machine is not working, you still took produce there with the confidence, based on what you're saying, that they told you can bring it there and they can store it somewhere, which is room 4.
Correct.
We don't know what condition it is in now because you've not been back there since May 3rd. Today's May 7th. So you've not been back there. So we don't know what condition it is in. And you've had no calls to say, well, it is compromised or it is good or whatever. You have to go for yourself and do your own checks. Is that how it works?
Not, it works like that under TADCO. At TUCOSAF time, they would have called and they would have informed you. You know, but it seems like that is how they do business now.
All right, so this is where we are now. The situation has happened. We've made decisions, and this is where we are. You are calling now for compensation. Have you had any response in your request for compensation? Any discussion at all, or any plans to have a discussion as it relates to compensation and even moving forward and maintaining your relationship with TADCO?
I had called for a meeting and I had no response to my letter or anything of that sort.
So what are your next steps now? What are you thinking that you should do, or what do you think should happen now?
I would take it slow. My next step is to write another letter. I'm calling again for communication between myself and all the farmers by extension who are disgruntled by this situation. You know, I think that TADCO should have a conversation with us. You know, let us resolve the issue. This is not about a personal attack on anybody. The farmers feel disgruntled, we feel disenfranchised, and all we want is a simple conversation, and we can probably sit down and compromise and work out something to go forward. And if you are not having a conversation with the farmers, then a compromise can't be had. You know, and that is what we are saying. If this issue is not resolved in a meaningful way, then I may have to seek legal redress.
All right. So, in terms of you, did you have any compromised goods?
Yes, I had
Right.
spoilage.
So, what kind of
Spoilage.
numbers we looking at? Can you quantify?
My
Either of you, can you quantify?
my spoilage would have been
I wouldn't say spoilage,
Compromise.
but the goods was compromised because fresh meat can be stored up to 3 days chilled. After that, it must be frozen. In my case, when I returned there, I put them there this Saturday. When I returned Monday, they were still chilled. They moved them from room 2 to room 4 with the expectation of getting them frozen. When I got there on Thursday, the goods was in the same chill conditions. That is when I asked to speak with the CEO. After the meeting, both parties agreed that, well, the CEO asked the processing manager to check the goods and give him a report. I told him that I would like to be there when she's checking the goods. That was done on the Friday. At that point in time, the goods were still in chill conditions. Very soft to the touch.
And this is how many days?
We're looking at Thursday to
Seven?
the next Friday.
So, and you're saying
Saturday the 20th.
And you're saying that after 3 days, the meat is compromised. And now we're talking about
it's
not frozen. And now we're talking about 7 days. So what is the status now? Because you're saying there's no spoilage. So what is the status between after 3 days up to where we are, 7 days? What is the status now?
At that point, he asked the processing manager to check the meat. I asked that I be there when she's doing that. I made myself available afternoon on Friday, and the meat was still soft. I cannot say that the meat spoil. Somebody from health will have to come in and do the necessaries. But with the information that we have, after 3 days of just being chilled, the meat will be compromised. And I, for sure, will not be taking that meat to sell to my customers, to tarnish my good name. I have made a name for myself.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're speaking with farmer Shakile Potts. He's the managing director of Pro Farms Limited, and Fanta Carrington, peers of A's Rabbitry, the manager there, talking about the issue that took place there at Tadco recently, counting their losses and calling upon the authorities for some measure of compensation. So we're hoping to see how that goes, and we will, of course, keep you updated as it relates to that. Thank you so much for staying with us. We don't end the conversation here. We're going to continue later on. We're going to hear more information about this as it comes to light. So we ask that you stay with us. And as you stay with us, of course, we invite you to share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back.